Do you know what North American carnivore has such a bad reputation that even the scientists who named him were impressed? They called him Ursus horribilis. That's a pretty fancy name for the animal we call the grizzly bear. We're going to travel to Chihuahua, Mexico, to share a day in the life of one of these bears. You may be surprised when you get to know another side of the most feared animal on our continent. Now, don't take a siesta, because you wouldn't want to miss the action. And later in the program, we'll have some fun playing Animal Quiz. So stay with us as we travel south of the border.
This is the land where the Mexican grizzly lives, Chihuahua. At first glance, it seems that only cactus and wildflowers could grow here. But this primitive high desert is alive with many living things. Blossoms which thrive under the hot Mexican sun, and members of the animal world who hide themselves in the landscape. Like these javelinas or wild pigs. They literally scratch out a living in this barren land. Their razor-sharp tusks and hooves will take on anything. They'll tree a man if they're attacked, so even a rattlesnake wouldn't be too strong an adversary. The snake seems to know that and gets out of harm's way. Only the hardiest can survive in Chihuahua. The wildcat and the cholo, or coatimundi, are creatures who qualify. And so is the giant lizard. Surprisingly enough, black bears, although rare, also live here. Someday they'll be fierce members of the animal world too. But in the meantime, fun and games are in order. Hide and seek help pass the time. A little boxing can be fun too. Suddenly, the cubs sense danger. The grizzly bear, North America's most feared animal. The cubs clamber to safety. The grizzly relentlessly advances. On his hind legs, the grizzly stands 7 feet tall. His menacing aspect sends the cubs ever higher. The hungry grizzly is after food, and since he can't climb the tree to get to the cubs, why not some of these acorns on the ground? As he nibbles, one brave cub starts down the tree. The grizzly is an omnivore. He'll eat anything, acorns or any animal he can kill. Now he has his eye on this foolish cub. But he also seems to have some family feelings. And since black bears are his third cousins, well, maybe some more acorns will do as well. Nevertheless, he must have a good square meal, so off he goes, ever on the alert. Grizzlies once roamed all over North America, terrorizing man and beast alike. Modern firearms killed most of them. Some lived on in Alaska and the Northwest. Some found the protection of American national parks. Others retreated to the wilds of Mexico, like our friend here. He may be frustrated about eating, but he won't give up either. Perhaps somehow he can get a good meal out of this tree. He's sure going to try. The grizzly isn't the only hungry one on the prowl. The skunk is looking for food too, like these lizards. His digging attracts our Mexican grizzly. When President Teddy Roosevelt recommended that the U.S. speak softly but carry a big stick, he virtually described the attitude of the skunk. Polecats are basically timid. Sometimes grizzlies are basically foolhardy. The skunk will go to any lengths to avoid using his secret weapon. Look out. Well, the skunk was pushed too far. And that's where the bear wants to be now, far away. But he's so confused and disoriented by the skunk's attack, he doesn't know which way to run. The badger has never before encountered a bear which smelled just like this. The grizzly is not only hungry, but now he's smelling. And the badger couldn't be more curious about this unhappy member of the animal world. Here in the high desert country of Chihuahua, the grizzly's quest for a square meal continues. The badger has a lot of courage. But Ursus horribilis is a formidable adversary. Or is he? Eventually, the 600-pound grizzly learns what it means to be badgered into retreat. When you're hungry, tired, and just plain frustrated, water can be the best therapy. Like everything else that walks, crawls, creeps, or flies, the jaguar, too, is on the lookout for a meal. The sound of splashing attracts his attention. This isn't exactly what he expected to find. But the curious cat is fascinated by the big creature splashing playfully in the pool. Bears are naturally playful. This bear may be trying to forget he's still hungry. Or maybe he thinks he's a beaver. that's enough of that. Time to get back to the serious business of food. The jaguar could be his dinner. He begins to close in on the cat. The cat's too fast. Here's another possibility for today's menu. A coatimundi. The coatimundi seems to have an idea of what's on the grizzly's mind. He gets so nervous sitting in the tree that he decides to make a run for it. But the cholo learns fast. Grizzlies can't climb trees. So near, and yet so far away. Well, once again, Ursus horribilis has been outmaneuvered. But Chihuahua is a vast land with many animals. Somewhere, somehow, the bear will eat before the day is done. A nearby porcupine has no inkling of the desperate situation he's about to encounter. He walks confidently through the countryside, defended only by 30,000 barbed quills. He sees the bear. The bear sees him. The porcupine calmly turns his back. The grizzly misinterprets this. It's one of those tension-filled moments. But instead of a meal, he's got a mouthful of quills. All the Mexican grizzly asks of life is for something to eat. Surely, somewhere in the hills of Chihuahua, there's a good meal waiting. Nature provides for all her creatures, and time heals all things. Somewhere here in the land south of the border, there's got to be nourishment for the Mexican grizzly. Now, I told you that bears would eat anything, but that doesn't include barbed wire. Just berries, nuts, leaves, and any birds, animals, reptiles, fish, or otters they can catch. But this time, he's going to be cagey and cool. He swims out innocently. He spends a long, long time lazily swimming. The otters will be lulled into a feeling of security. He finds a stick to play with as a decoy. The otters grow less concerned as the bear continues to splash and play. It almost seems as if the wily bear has forgotten the helpless otter. He feigns swimming away. gets carelessly out of the water. Wait, he has forgotten the otters. He got so involved in the game of deceit that he fooled himself. But Providence has put another opportunity just ahead. Cattle. Grizzlies are notorious cattle thieves. They'll steal horses from camps, follow herds of bison, even attack men without provocation. Now, the grizzly catches the scent of the cattle. He lunges toward them. Only a few planks separate him from a glorious steak dinner. T-bones, porterhouse, filet mignon. The grizzly is cunning. He'll use the unexpected route, water. In a matter of minutes, his frustration will end. His stomach will be full and satisfied, and he'll have lived up to that reputation and name of Ursus horribilis. The bear's hulk is all the way in the water trough. He only had a mask and snorkel. But there's another way. Nothing can stop him now, except man. Trying to look innocent won't work with a crusty rancher who takes aim. Another retreat, and all that protein left behind. Well, back to the berries. Will wonders never cease? He's got a rabbit. But what's this? A coyote stalking a grizzly? Did the grizzly steal the rabbit from the coyote? Well, even if he did, the stalwart bear is not going to be trifled with now that he's finally got a square meal. Taking his time, savoring this choice morsel. The coyote circles, but the grizzly is vigilant. Well, it is a little unnerving to eat with an audience like that. The grizzly intelligently decides to move to another location, and in the strategic retreat, loses the rabbit. Furious, he takes out his frustration on a nearby and helpless oak. The grizzly bear's struggle for survival will continue in this inhospitable landscape. He'll continue to seek a living here, searching diligently for sustenance, flushing the terrified creatures of Chihuahua from their hiding places, stalking game and cattle over the countryside, just as we've seen him do. He'll continue to terrorize the landscape and live on, the most frustrated member of Chihuahua's animal world.
This is Bosco. He's a black bear and a baby, of course. Did you know that America has three main types of bear? The polar bear, the black bear, and the grizzly. Well, there's no mistaking the huge white polar bear, but you may have trouble with the other two. But the fur of the grizzlies varies in color from pale yellow to black. And the black bear can be brown or cinnamon. And of course, black. All very confusing, I admit. But one thing that isn't confusing is the size and strength of a grizzly. Do you know what these giant carnivores really want out of life? Well, I'll tell you. It's to be left alone with lots of country to call their own and plenty of food. Speaking of food, looks like Bosco's kind of hungry. You know, that reminds me, not many years ago, a rather foolhardy amateur photographer approached a female grizzly with cubs. He was downwind. That means she couldn't smell him. Now, most people wouldn't even consider approaching such a large and protected mother. But this man did. When he stood up and started snapping pictures, she heard the noise, turned, and charged at full speed. He had no means of escape, so he stood absolutely still. When she was only feet away, the she-bear suddenly stopped, turned around, and ambled off. Now, this was a very lucky man. Because grizzlies are so unpredictable, she might just as easily have attacked him. Believe me, the capricious nature of the grizzly has accounted for more than a few human deaths. But for the most part, this largest land-roving carnivore spends its time quietly munching trees and plants. But if he does get into a bad mood, he has plenty of weight to back it up. An average adult male weighs about 600 pounds. They've been known to tip the scales in excess of 1,000 pounds. And that's a lot of bear. Now let's play Animal Quiz and see how much you remember about our Mexican grizzly. Have fun as you try to answer these questions. South of the border, the grizzly lives in the high desert amid cactus and wildflowers. In what region of Mexico are they located? Is it Tijuana, Chihuahua, or Ensenada? Well, the answer is B, Chihuahua. Sadly, estimates are that only 24 grizzlies survive in the mountains and foothills of Chihuahua. Did you get that question right? Good. Here's another one for you to try. Grizzlies once roamed extensively over North America, but now only a few scattered populations remain. What was the principal cause of their deaths? Was it modern firearms, or fire, or poison? Did you answer modern firearms? You're correct. Wherever the paths of grizzly bears and men have crossed, the bears have proved to be just as vulnerable as other animals to the power of guns. Are you doing well on your grizzly quiz? Okay. See if you can answer this one. When a grizzly is hungry, he'll try to eat almost anything. Porcupines aren't a good source of meat because of their natural protection. What is it? Strong odor, barbed quills, or bad taste? Well, the correct answer is B. The barbed quills of the porcupine make it an undesirable target. I hope you had fun playing Animal Quiz. I sure did. So far, we've taken a lighthearted look at the grizzly bear, but unfortunately, his situation is far more serious. Estimates put the number of Mexican grizzlies as low as 20 to 30. And some believe that there are fewer than that. This is an appalling number. And all the more tragic because grizzlies reproduce so slowly. there is almost no hope for their recovery without drastic action. And their plight is little better in the continental United States. Please remember, be kind to animals. It's good for everybody. What 8,000-pound animal performs a graceful ballet in the waters of southern Kenya? It's hard to believe any 4-ton animal can be light on its feet. But in the next half hour, you'll see this incredible underwater ballet for yourself. It takes place in Mtsima Springs, where millions of gallons of water bubble forth daily. The springs are an oasis in the intensely hot African plains. From elephants to hippos to baboons, every animal takes advantage of the cool waters here, each in its own way. It is said that man can live 30 days without food, but only 3 days without water. And sometimes we take water for granted. It's constantly at our disposal. But the animals in this area must travel to their only source of water, the springs. In the next half hour, we'll discover the unique and fascinating way these animals use Mtsima Springs to survive. Watch closely, because in a while we're going to give you a chance to see how much you remember by playing Animal Quiz. Join me now for an amazing journey as we explore the animal world at Kenya's Spring of Life.
The Tsavo is thousands of square miles of arid bushland, a nearly waterless wilderness on the plains of Kenya. During the age of mammals, Africa's wildlife attained a splendor unsurpassed on Earth. And on this great expanse of veldt, a magnificent community of animals thrived. Then hundreds of millions of years after the formation of these plains, millions of years after the creation of these wild creatures, the earth growled, trembled, and exploded. When it was all over, the face of this wild and rugged landscape had been altered. Huge volcanic craters dotted the countryside. The ancient plateau was punctuated by volcanic cones, encrusted with volcanic lava, broken by hills created of volcanic ash. Trees and grasses took hold on the slopes, softening their contours, creating a carpet of green which united them to the surrounding savanna. Life and the round of the seasons seemed to continue as usual. Once again, the rains came. But now, the nurturing water would fall on the wild creatures, the flat stretches of veldt, and the newly formed hills. A series of volcanic cones called the Chulu Hills, rising 4,000 feet above the plain, thrust up like thirsty sponges to catch the rains. Instead of running off the slopes, the water seeps into and through the porous volcanic ash of the range. And even as the sun dries the countryside, the water is coursing underground, seeping along the path of a lava flow. After moving beneath the earth for 25 miles, the water reaches a wall of impervious limestone. Then forced up to the surface, it creates an oasis, a miraculous watering place called Nzima Springs. All manner of creatures make their way to the springs, which burst from the arid surrounding landscape. The battler, a short-tailed eagle, comes to drink and to seek prey. Animals large and small make their home here, forming an intricate web of life. Each living thing depends on others for its survival, and all depend ultimately on the water gushing forth from the earth. $50 million gallons of water pour out of the springs every day, creating cool, transparent pools. The chain of pools is rimmed by lush tropical gardens. Greenness is everywhere, greenness of every hue, a profusion of plant life amidst the dust of the veldt. The animal world of these waters, their shady banks and luxuriant foliage, is dominated by the hippopotamus. In early morning and late afternoon, the hippos bask and doze at water's edge. A step away, there is nourishing vegetation, while the waters themselves offer safety and protection from the burning rays of the African sun. Ungainly on land, the huge hippos become graceful underwater. They move slowly, prowling underwater tunnels formed of vegetation, and swimming through the spring waters in a quiet, slow-motion ballet. Semi-aquatic hippos breed, bear, and raise their young in the springs at Nzima. Fond of each other's company, they spend most of the daylight hours lolling in the clear waters. Here they rest and sleep, keeping their sensitive skins moist. But when night falls, the behemoths emerge to feed on shore. For grasses and not aquatic plants are the main source of food for these 8,000-pound herbivores. They will travel as far as 5 miles into the veldt to browse among the antelope and elephants. These huge vegetarians require about 150 pounds of food per night. So pushing their vast muzzles into the grasses, they graze through the hours of darkness. Only when dawn begins to break over the African veldt will they return to the protective waters of Mzima Springs. The verdant oasis of Mzima Springs supports an exquisitely balanced animal community. This giant is the #1 citizen, called river horse by the Greeks. The hippo was designed to spend long hours submerged. It can rest and doze indefinitely with only its nostrils out of water. Through their long lives, hippos may survive up to 50 years. They will spend most of every day here. Generations of them have lived and died in these pools, the perfect hippo nursery and habitat. Only the Mzima waters make existence in the middle of an arid bushland possible for these animals. The hippos, in turn, provide a major contribution to the ecology of the springs. A thick carpet of hippo dung covers the pool floors, enriching it and supporting a wealth of animal life. The hippo waste is a nursery for insect larvae and crustaceans on which other spring life feeds. Numberless small fish eat the food stirred up as hippos walk along the spring floors. Other fish nibble at the algae covering the animal's hide. In turn, fish-eating birds patrol the springs in search of a meal. An overwhelming number of birds is found in Tsavo, over 500 species, and many are attracted by Mzima Springs, the foliage surrounding them, and the life they support. The darter can use its beak to spear fish. Pied kingfishers are among the local residents, perching on overhanging branches or hovering above the cool waters looking for fish. The wide-ranging African fish eagle can always be found in the vicinity, as can the graceful wading heron. The giant kingfisher, too, is here, and well it should be, for its favorite habitat is water fringed by trees. Sleek and satisfied, the glossy ibis groom themselves. Other birds are drawn to this bustling haven to feed on the myriad insects hidden in the surrounding leaves and grasses. A richness of small things thrives here, highly diverse, vast in numbers, and of great importance ecologically. They provide food for larger creatures. They lap the juices of trees and flowers, convert organic materials, aerate the earth. Some are bearers of pain or poison. Others are creations of delicate, ethereal beauty. Shelled, winged, or many-legged, silent, humming, or buzzing, these little creatures of leaf and earth, air and twig, are all part of the elaborately interlocking chain that creates the life of the springs. Flies are part of nature's cleanup committee. These help dispose of a dead hippo carcass. The spring's crocodiles, too, feed on carrion. Nature is efficient. In its plan, nothing goes to waste. The crocs fit neatly into the ecology of the springs, eliminating weak, sick, or wounded animals, disposing of those which have already perished. In its final bequest to the life of the springs, a hippo gives sustenance to a crocodile. So we see how the existence of each creature is dependent upon others. How in this exquisite and complicated design, life and even death creates more life. The vast tract of parched earth that is Tsavo forms the greatest stronghold for big game in Kenya. Among its animals, the elephants are foremost. Mighty herds of these giants roam the landscape, searching for the great quantities of food and water they must have to sustain their bulky bodies. Thus, many of them make their way to the refreshing pools at Mzima. Here they can relax and drink their fill. With a thirst equal to its size, the elephant requires about 40 gallons of water per day. At Mzima, there is always enough to meet the animal's needs, and there is respite from the searing heat of the savannas. While the bulls lead an independent existence, the elephant herds are composed of family groups under the leadership of a dominant female. Largest of the Earth's land mammals, the sociable elephants can visit Mzima in confidence. They need fear no other creatures. Through the day, representatives of many of the bush species come to slake their thirst. The baboons must be alert and wary of predators. They've learned to drink at the tributary springs, away from the threat of crocodiles. The massive Cape buffalo, crowned with its spectacular horns, ambles in to drink and perhaps to escape the heat in the shallows of the water. So the animals, large and small, congregate here, drinking, resting, joining the flourishing community of Mzima Springs. Only after a long and leisurely interlude do the elephants leave the cooling waters. Once out on the banks, they again cover themselves with the dust of Savo. Vacuuming the ground with their trunks, they throw clouds of it on their backs to provide protection from the sun and pesky insects. Occasionally, someone's aim is a bit off. Feeling vigorous and refreshed, the elephants sometimes find a little jousting is in order. Eventually, the elephants must move on. Feeding their huge bodies requires hundreds of pounds of food each day. Finding and eating it takes perhaps 16 hours. There is much ground to be covered. Behind them, they leave the rich garden that is Mzima Springs. The food, the water, the shelter, and the wild creatures that form this bountiful community. But just as the creatures who visit the springs must eventually leave, so must the water itself. Flowing out of the chain of pools, the clear liquid forms the Mzima River. Threading its way across the dry and dusty bush, the river forms a ribbon of green on the hot, dun-colored landscape. It moves farther and farther from the green oasis that is Mzima Springs, nursery of hippo and crocodile, waterhole of elephants and zebra. But there is a future for these waters. Ahead, there is another river to join. Other animals will come to drink. In Africa, water is life. And that is the gift of Mzima, Kenya's spring of life.
Life on the African plains goes on thanks to Mzima Springs. Nature has a way of caring for its creatures, large and small. Speaking of large creatures, I want to show you something. One of its largest is the hippopotamus. You know how much they weigh? 4 tons. I'm going to keep feeding them because I don't want them to eat me, because they can eat a lot. As a matter of fact, they can eat 44 pounds of grass at one feeding. Now, when they yawn, let me see if I can get him to do it for you. You see that their teeth are widely spread apart. They don't look too efficient for grazing, but as I said, if they eat 44 pounds, they're pretty good eaters. And I've never seen a hippo go hungry. There you go, Otis. When a hippo yawns, however, that's a prelude to attack. So while I keep feeding our friend Otis here, I'm going to back out and we'll have fun playing Animal Quiz. Well, we've seen the great variety of animals that populate Mzima Springs, including my friends the hippos. But my first question on Animal Quiz is the number of birds. Why do they go to Mzima Springs? Is it because A, they like the heat of the savannas? Or B, they can spear fish and feed on insects? Or C, they enjoy the clear skies all year long? Correct answer is B. They can spear fish and feed on insects. Over 500 species of birds can be found at Mzima Springs. Some are drawn to the springs by the fish they can spear. Others are attracted to the lush foliage to feed on the insects. Baboons drink from the tributary springs instead of the main pool of water. Now, why do you suppose they do this? Is it A, to avoid the threat of hippos? B, they prefer the shallow water? Or C, to avoid the threat of crocodiles? Well, the correct answer is C, to avoid the threat of crocodiles. The baboon is always alert and wary of predators. And as I said, the hippo rarely attacks. It's the crocodile that's a threat to the baboon. Even though the crocodile is sometimes a threat to the creatures of the springs, it does play an important role in maintaining nature's balance. Now, how does it do this? A, it provides food for other spring life. Or B, it eliminates weak, sick, or wounded animals. Or perhaps it's C, it destroys rotting foliage. The correct answer is B. It eliminates weak, sick, or wounded animals and disposes of those which have already perished. Now, let's take a look at the elephants. Elephants cover themselves with dust. Why do they do that? Is it A, for the comfort, B, for protection from the sun and insects, or C, to camouflage themselves? Well, the correct answer is B, for protection from the sun and insects. The elephant doesn't need to camouflage itself. It's the largest of land mammals and fears no other creature. Elephants are big eaters, but hippos eat even more. Now, what is their main source of food? Could it be A, fish, B, grasses, or perhaps C, aquatic plants? Well, the answer is B, grasses. The hippo is a pure vegetarian and eats about 150 pounds of food per night. That's even more than my late night snack. You know, hippos spend most of their day in water. Why do they do that? Is it A, for protection from the hot African sun? B, to keep that tremendous weight off their feet? Or is it C, to continuously drink the water they require? Well, the answer is A, for protection from the hot African sun. Because if it weren't for the cool Mitsima waters, the animals would perish in the arid landscape of southern Kenya. I hope you enjoyed playing Animal Quiz and our trip through Mitsima Springs. Oh, by the way, if you're afraid man's presence in Mitsima Springs interferes with the animal's existence in any way, don't worry. Salvo National Park sees to it that the animals are unaffected. The magnificent wildlife continues to live and grow due to the miraculous presence of Mitsima Springs in the searingly hot African plains. So, please join me next time for another fascinating look at the incredible new animal world. And remember, be kind to animals. It's good for everybody. Hi, I'm Bill Burrud. I'll bet you're wondering why I'm standing here in the snow with a tuxedo on. Well, during the next half hour, we're going to travel to the continent of Antarctica to meet nature's best-dressed animal, the penguin. We always seem to make fun of the penguins' formal attire. But did you know that their markings play a very important part in their survival? Spending most of their time in the water, the penguins' unusual coloring, called countershading, is a perfect camouflage from its enemies. From above, their dark backs blend into the murky water, while from below, their white undersides all but disappear against the rays of filtering sunlight. Not only that, but these black and white feathers, which number 300 per square inch, also provide them protection from the cold weather in Antarctica. Well, if you're ready to brave the cold, let's meet these adorable little fellas. Later in our program, we'll visit with some of their relatives at SeaWorld. Then you'll have a chance to play Animal Quiz. It's a great adventure, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
It was a craving for adventure that brought the first explorers to these barren wastes of ice and snow at the bottom of the world. For this is the continent of Antarctica. The land and the climate they found here made exploration excruciatingly difficult. Brave men lost their lives on the ice shelves. Here at the coldest place on Earth, no natives greeted them. Well, unless you count the penguins. They do look very much like men dressed in formal attire as they go about their business. These funny, flightless birds are emperor penguins. They stand 4 feet tall. They're curious little fellas. They've almost no fear of human beings, perhaps because they haven't seen many. They walk like men, too. Well, most of the time. When they're in a hurry, this is faster. Really looks like fun, doesn't it? Scientists are impressed by the fact that penguins have been here since before the Ice Age descended on Antarctica, continually adapting to the changing climate. I'm fascinated by this unusual means of locomotion. The emperors breed on solid ice near land during the dead of winter. They congregate in large colonies, and the chicks are born on the ice. Both parents take part in the incubating of the egg and the caring for the young. They say that when Antarctica had a tropical or temperate climate, the penguin was a creature of the forest, like the monkey or parrot. He must have been upset when snow started drifting over his domain. Snow that gradually made this place eternal winter. But instead of moving to a warmer climate, he stayed on. He adapted, multiplied with a vengeance. Here at the Cape Crozier Rookery, there are about 500,000 Adelie penguins. They're very gregarious birds and just love to be together. This is an expectant mother with her egg. The Adelies breed in the early spring. And this is how they find their mates. It's almost impossible even for the penguins to tell the males from the females, but they keep calling. Love always finds a way, and when they're reunited, it's a joyous occasion. Penguins are monogamous, and the males are very devoted husbands. This one, who we'll call George Jones, is feathering his wife's nest. Well, not exactly feathering it. Actually, the Adelie's nests are made of rocks. George is very fussy about the kind of rocks his bride's nest is to be made of, and goes searching for just the proper one. He finds it, the perfect rock, and takes it home. John next door is not nearly so fussy. He picks up a rock from just any place. I guess John doesn't care about keeping up with the Joneses. In any case, the males are good husbands and hard workers, industrious about finding the rocks, building their little homes, and keeping them just so. But like married couples everywhere, occasionally they have their problems. This wife is just impossible to please. She doesn't want this rock. He finds it very confusing, but he tries the other side. No luck there either. Some days you just can't win. But Papa Penguin keeps on trying and trying. And trying. And from the looks of things here, I'd say the domestic problems are usually solved. At the Cape Crozier Penguin Rookery in Antarctica, there's always some kind of excitement. Today, these sociable little Adeles are lining up for a trip to the sea. Off they go through the pressure ridges, penguins by the thousands. While Papa stays back on the nest, Mama and a few of her girlfriends go out over the thin ice. She may stay at sea feeding up to 6 weeks while Papa fasts. Then she'll return to the nest and relieve him. Uh-oh. Looks like somebody missed the trip. At sea, the penguins are really in their element. They swim like porpoises, and this is, in fact, called porpoising. Penguins are the most completely adapted to marine life of all birds and can swim underwater as fast as seals, helped by the flippers developed out of what were once their wings. For those who stayed at home, sometimes tensions begin to mount. I suppose a little argument is inevitable between expectant mothers or fathers. Perhaps it's a debate over child rearing, or it could be a question of who's on whose egg. Even with the quibbling, things are relatively safe and serene at the rookery, as those at home wait patiently for the others. But there's danger on the thin ice. A leopard seal, one of the most deadly animals on Earth, the scourge or the ice pack. The penguins run frantically to escape, but the leopard seal chases the shadows of the penguins from under the ice. He lunges and breaks through the ice to attack. On his third try, he gets one. There's no place for his prey to escape to, as he again and again attacks them, and as they run and regroup. But this is nature's way and law. And just as the penguins must eat, so must the leopard seal. Despite the threats of their natural enemies, life continues in this icy place. The penguin's other principal enemy is the South Polar skua. These bloodthirsty birds are called the hawks of the Antarctic. Their favorite food is helpless penguin. A skua will try to pluck an egg right out of its mother's nest. These birds are scavengers preying on eggs, baby penguins, and anything they can pirate from each other. Knowing this, Bob Wood of the New York Zoological Society places a dead penguin on the ice to attract one of the skuas. Near it, he leaves a noose with which he hopes to catch one. Bob and his colleagues are conducting scientific studies to test the bird's navigational abilities and homing instincts. Now he'll wait and watch for a skua to come within capturing range. The skuas are quick to take the bait. One of them seems to be in the noose. He's got his bird. An assistant runs out to keep the bird from harming itself. As Bob reels in the string and goes to join him. The skua, with his great wingspan, flutters and flops in an attempt to get away, but it's useless. He tucks the skua's beak under his arm so he won't be bitten. He finds it's been previously tagged by other scientists. Bob meticulously enters his capture in a logbook, noting the date and location. Altogether, he and his associates captured 20 skuas at Cape Crozier. The skuas are loaded on a sled. Half will be released at Burrud Station. The other half will be released at the South Pole Station. And their homing instincts will have to be exceptionally keen for them to return, because any direction in which they fly will be north. They'll make the 700-mile trip there by helicopter. This is just one of many experiments being conducted on Antarctica. We learned later that the skuas never return, making life a little bit brighter for the penguins of Cape Crozier. Here at ice-covered McMurdo Bay, the U.S. government has its main station in Antarctica. The National Science Foundation supports it. The U.S. Navy administers it. And many of you know it as Operation Deep Freeze. Man's entire presence on this continent is dedicated to scientific study. This truck belongs to USARP, or the United States Antarctic Research Program, which studies everything about Antarctica from geology to meteorology. These three men are interested in what we're interested in, animals. They are studying Weddell seals, which, like this mother and pup, are often found basking on the ice near shore. They're trying to cover the female's face so she can't bite them. These men know that Weddell seals have no inborn fear of man, but the seals do fear aggressive actions. And this is too much, even for the baby, who tries to bite one of our scientists. They keep trying to get those sharp teeth covered, but it's hard to do without hurting the seal or themselves. Mother seal tries valiantly to shake the bag off, but can't quite do it. Now that she's subdued, the men will be able to attach a transmitter to her. It's a miniature instrument homemade by one of the men. They secure the waterproof instrument to her back by a painless process. release the seal, and she immediately returns to her pup. Now the scientists will be able to track her movements. They return to their heated portable office. They're on a 10-year project to learn about the status and the population dynamics of Antarctic seals. The Waddell seals dive deep and long in search of food. And with this equipment, the scientists can track the animals over the ice and under the sea. Here, the scientists are dealing with sophisticated instruments to learn about the seal's life. On the ice, a seal pup is ready to learn about life, too. But there isn't a test tube or transmitter or antenna that can teach the pup to live in this environment as his mother can, armed with nothing but her instinct and love. She sets the example. Soon the pup tries it for himself. To reassure him, Mother stays near. The mother is just as proud of her pup's first swim as human mothers are of baby's first steps, and she snuggles him in a seal's embrace. His life will depend totally on his ability to swim and catch fish, for the sea is the only source of food in this barren wasteland of ice and snow. While the seals were placed here by the hand of God, there is another animal that was put here by the hand of man. It is, of course, the husky dog, one of the few members of the animal world which can survive the elements on this icy continent. The early explorers brought the first huskies here to haul their sleds. These dogs are at the New Zealander's Scott base, and many of them are descended from the huskies Admiral Burrud took on his 1939 expedition. Chris Richardson is one of their handlers. He's getting them ready for a run. The dogs are enthusiastic, both about him and about the prospect of going out. Huskies weigh 90 to 100 pounds, and each dog can pull 150 pounds. The dogs can travel at least 20 miles a day. Now, as much as they love Chris, the dogs don't always get along with each other. Things are finally under control again, and the team is ready and anxious to go. With the help of his friends in the animal world, man has established a foothold in the Antarctic. And here every day, dedicated men are discovering more about the creatures of the Antarctic animal world. Dog teams still speed across the Antarctic ices, legacies and reminders of the early explorations of Shackleton, Scott, Burrud. Adventure isn't a dead word in this icy wilderness, and neither is discovery.
From the penguins to the seals, the inhabitants of Antarctica are truly fortunate, for man has set aside this vast, unspoiled continent as a refuge, a last frontier where scientific knowledge will be the only industry. But man's search for knowledge about Antarctica and its fascinating animals does not end there. Here at SeaWorld and the Hub SeaWorld Research Institute, scientists are continuing their study of the penguin. This research facility is crowded with over 300 of them, but they'll be moving into the new Penguin Encounter exhibit very soon, and we'll get a sneak peek when we play Animal Quiz. You know, at SeaWorld, penguins live a pampered life, dining on fresh frozen fish, including river smelt and herring. Their dinner is served on trays, tossed in the waters and on the ice. Sometimes they're even fed by hand. You know, the temperature in here is kept at a freezing 28 degrees. It makes a perfect environment for the penguins, but I'm a little cold. Here's a riddle for you. What walks like E.T., looks a little bit like him, and is just about as famous? Well, it's E.P., the emperor penguin. Now, E.P. was hatched here at SeaWorld in September 1982. He is the only emperor penguin ever to be raised by hand. But while our friends are busy here, let's take a closer look at the new Penguin Encounter exhibit and play Animal Quiz. I think E.P. and the other penguins will love their new home here. Now let's have some fun. Here's our first question. Where do emperor penguins breed? A, in the water, B, on the ice, or C, on solid ground? The answer to our first question is B, on the ice. Emperor penguins are probably the hardiest of all penguins, spending their entire life on the ice. Here's another question about the emperor penguins. This one's about parenting. Males have the sole responsibility for incubating the eggs. How many eggs does the female lay? Is it A, 1 egg, B, 2 eggs, or C, 3 eggs? You're right if you said A, 1. While the emperors lay only 1 egg, the Adelie penguins lay 2 eggs. Here at SeaWorld, scientists allow the Adelies to raise 1 egg on their own, the other being placed in an incubator where it's hatched and raised by hand. This way they can better study the chick's growth and behavior. Let's try a question about the Adelie penguins. What material do the Adelie penguins use to build their nests? Is it A, feathers, B, rocks, or C, neither one? Well, the answer is B. The Adelies use rocks to build their nests. Well, how are you doing so far? Here's a question about the penguins' enemies. What is the most feared enemy of the Antarctic penguins? Is it A, man, B, skua, or C, leopard seal? Well, the answer is C. The leopard seal is without a doubt the penguin's worst enemy. Let's see how much you can remember about the huskies, the only animal who has adapted to life in Antarctica after being brought there by man. This one's about their endurance. How far can a husky travel in one day? A, 10 miles, or B, 20 miles, or C, 50 miles? You're right if you answered B. These dogs can travel over 20 miles a day. Now here's our final question. It's about man's relationship with the huskies. While motorized toboggans, airplanes, and helicopters have modernized travel within Antarctica, the huskies are still very valuable to man. What is their greatest advantage? Is it A, companionship, B, rescue, or C, labor? Well, the answer to our last question is B. Although the huskies do provide labor and certainly companionship, their most important advantage is to provide transportation for emergency rescue teams during bad weather. Well, how'd you do with Animal Quiz? I hope you had as much fun as I did. We've traveled south to a land that remains an untouched wilderness. Hopefully it will, for years to come, offer man a source of inspiration and knowledge about the world and the creatures that inhabit it. Join us next time for the new animal world. And remember, be kind to animals. It's good for everybody.
Come on home where your good friends are waiting. Everything shiny and new. Come where excitement is playing. Walt Disney and you.
Come home to all your good friends. Mickey. Donald. Goofy. Herbie. Alice. Winnie the Pooh. Mary Poppins. Pollyanna.
You have a stubby little nose.
And many more. You'll see your favorite heroes, including Zorro, Davy Crockett, the king of the wild frontier, and Condor Man, Disney's spy in the sky. But there's no escaping the Disney villains.
You call that murder?
Lean on him.
Am I in your way? He is not an agent of the CIA. He is a writer of comic books. Wait, don't nobody know this is a holdup.
That rotten car is driving me. Pippin!
Fire that musket, and I cuts his throat.
Was that anyone we know?
He's your uncle?
Yes, that's why I happen to know Uncle Alonzo has a heart.
Want a light?
You're invited to enter a world of excitement. Suspense.
What did you see?
Surprise. And laughter.
Oh, my God.
A world of tenderness.
Please try to understand, Pollyanna. You're such a part of our lives now. Nancy and Angelica, Mrs. Lagerlof. And I love you as if you were my own little girl. Won't you give me that chance? Please.
Tears.
Tony, you've got to get out of here before it's too late, please.
Adventure. And music.
Oh, even though the sound is really something quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
And more laughter.
Hey, you mangy cur, come back with my car! Get him!
That shaggy dog just stole my car.
Roses and rainbows.
And more music.
You better take a look again.
That's just the way we like them.
It's magic. It's frightening.
Isn't this a clever disguise?
It's cute.
What are you supposed to be?
I'm a little black rain cloud, of course.
Silly old bear.
It's fun. And it'll take you by surprise. Are you ready for the Disney lineup?
You ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
I said I was ready.
Come on home. See what's waiting for you. Waiting for you. Come on home where your video's playing. Good times are waiting, it's true. Come where your family is waiting for Walt Disney and you. Walt Disney and you. Walt Disney and you.
Now available from Walt Disney Home Video.